Hello and good evening to another episode of Lean Living. Today I'd like to discuss systems. Now, it may sound slightly metaphysical or spiritual in nature when I mention some of these interconnected, woven aspects of our life. However, purely on a physical aspect, a lot of these systems which are set up in our everyday lives are things that once you actually learn to understand the systems on the very small scale, you will begin to see larger systems in place which predominate nearly every aspect of your life. Now, to begin with, the waste in our society today. We often see foods and things like water which are routinely thrown into dumpsters. Water doesn't have an expiry date. It being in the system of a food product, they were obligated to actually put a expiry date on it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, a lot of the food products, even if they are no good for human consumption, still could fill some need other than filling a landfill site. An example, once again, of marketing on various levels of life itself. Another system which another example I could possibly give into how people in general have been brainwashed is possibly a strong word, but essentially when I explain this you may understand what it is at its basic level. Is for an example, there are many companies, agricultural companies in existence today, Monsanto, Bayer, which were all initially involved in war products, ways to kill people. Now, when the wars were over, they found themselves in a slight vacuum. Their products which brought death to other people were no longer needed in the great vast quantities that they had, so they turned to agriculture. And some may say that they're doing exactly the same thing, but in a slightly slower form these days. Scott's, one of these companies, who I'm not entirely sure was actually connected with any war products per se, but they marketed in the very earliest days the idea that the perfectly green monocrop lawn was what you needed to have to be an acceptable person in society. Lawns before existed with a mixture of many different types of plants. These days we know them as weeds. Clover, which fixed the nitrogen in the soil, which then, by extracting it from the air and distributing it through the nodules in their root system. Dandelions, which uncompacted the soil with their large taproot systems and which brought the nutrients up from way deeper than most of the actual plants could actually reach, expired on the surface and then transferred that throughout the lawn. Now, with these plants in existence, their products wouldn't sell, because essentially the whole system was built up there to maintain a healthy lawn. If they could actually sell to the general public that these plants were wrong, that they didn't look good, that they would somehow make you a bad person for keeping an unkempt front lawn, then they could sell you the products which would do exactly the same as what these plants are doing. It seems far-fetched when you think about it these days that some crazy idea like that would work, but it did, and it does. This kind of marketing is predominant in most of the various things in our lives. We're always thinking of a quick fix to achieve a result. Now, as human beings, we're quite adaptable. We can live pretty much in every area of the earth because of our intelligence, our ability to adapt our environment to our own needs. It's what makes us the actual predominant species of the earth. Unfortunately, we've fallen onto the quick fix method as the go-to. It's sometimes the crutch that we use to get us through a hard time or get us to a certain point isn't always the best way to go about things. See, we manage our people through food, and the people are managed by the media, and once you have a system that's in place and you convince people that they need these things, then you have the upper hand. Governments have convinced people that they'd be lost without them, but most of our problems come from government. Most of our problems come from governments conflicting with other governments who then sacrifice the lives of many a young person in wars that don't need to be fought. But they happen anyway. Just a few ideas for you to think about and to examine various things in life a little bit closer, because once you actually begin to question any aspect of life in its simplest form, you begin to see the bigger picture. Anyway, I'll leave that with you. Have a little think about what's going on around you and the systems and the truths that you're being told, and whether they actually are truths. Because once you begin to question, the whole thing begins to unravel. So I hope that's a little bit of help for you. Not exactly lean living as such, but it does and may bring you a little bit of peace of mind, or it may piss you off a bit. But either way, I think it's a good idea to think, because not many people do it these days.